I guess that's something that, because Marlena will post them. But
It's gone.
I haven't looked, so.
Yeah,
We are recording the meeting.
all right. I'll call the meeting to order then. So policy 1700, that's kind of where we left off last time. We didn't dive into it. We looked at those others, but, so.
Are you starting with the, with the Joliet District site, 1700?
No,
Which ones did I pull up to?
so what I wanted to do is look through the, School District 2 Policy 1700. And I think I emailed that out.
You probably did, I gotta find it.
Did I?
Yeah, so if everybody looks back through email, there's an email June 26th that had draft policies that were shared out in preparation of the last policy meeting that we went through. That included, 1441, which was the audience participation, cleaning up some of that public comment. That's up for a first reading this evening. Then we also, the policy committee will be recommending that form, 1700. So that was two of the things that we got done last month. And then we also got done 4311, which was a new policy for the district and complaints against district employees. That is also up for a first reading tonight. And then the one thing that came out of your guys' legal training was some potential changes to 1700. So I think the minutes from the last policy committee meeting showed that we were going to preview in the interim 1700 and take a look at it and be ready to make a recommendation to the full board.
Did that get sent out to everybody? I can resend it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
At 11:30, I'm still looking. And it's not wanting to let me preview it.
Yeah, we just forwarded it to you.
Yeah, 11:30.
I just sent it, so we should put it
I don't know if my computer's just not right.
So the thing I liked about the School District 2 Policy 1700 was, like, it kind of went through, I thought it was just a little clearer than ours, and like, I don't know if you guys remember, like, at that training, the attorneys they weren't super supportive of, like, the 1700, the MTSBA 1700, sorry, I'm not feeling well. Like, the MTSBA 1700 that was out there, because it's just kind of, it's not very clear. It could be a lot clearer. So, and I think we found that as we've all looked at it a little bit closer, but there's definitely room for improvement.
yeah, there were a couple of areas I think that in reviewing it that it's not totally outlined on what action, the board chair should take. It's not clear if it needs to, be submitted to a committee. And I do think that from what I've looked at with the School District 2 one, it does kind of outline those.
And did you get it to come up? Here, I've got the
It
printout.
just, I think I have it, it won't load.
I have a hard copy too.
Here.
I'm gonna try downloading it.
I've got it on my
It's
computer.
some pages, but I can't. That's it, just go away. There it is. It's taking over there. You're amazing.
Just need to.
You're magnetic personnel.
Something else I liked about the, School District 2 1700 on that second page, I liked how they redirect you to separate policies if a complaint falls under like a different, like separate policy.
Where that table is. I
Mhm.
like that table. Do those numbers all match our policies so that that's accurate, or do we have to go through it?
We would have to go
Just make sure
through-
those numbers of the policy
Yeah.
numbers are correct.
Because that is something I noticed about the, School District 2 policies. They don't necessarily use the MTSBA draft policies, so their numbering might be a little bit off.
I think that would be a good thing to have.
But like just kind of perusing some of them, like I know we have these, you know, about like special education and student discipline and that kind of stuff. And then the policy we reviewed last month about, what was that, 4311?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's also helpful to kind of clarify, like not everything necessarily has to go through 1700.
Yeah, I liked, because I don't remember, I mean, it might be there, but I don't recall seeing item number 3, Board's Authority Limited, in which they clearly state, you know, that stakeholders should be aware that the Board's authority and role in the district's complaint procedure are limited in certain circumstances, and not all issues arising within a school can be, you know, directly addressed by the board. And specifically, I think what they talk about there is student discipline issues,
Employee.
or employee performance. And that also talks about that, I think, in number 2.
Until the superintendent brings it to the board.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that it could, but it doesn't have to.
Yeah.
So that means they can't say, I need this to go to the board. Doesn't have to without your recommendation.
Right. Hi, Miss Jackie.
Hello.
That's pretty cleared up and spelled out. They have all the complaint forms and stuff in the mix too, like that.
Yeah, I think we're doing that work to get the form in place, you know, so there's a standard way to process these.
And I don't remember, did we not have the form before? Or was it?
I think we had developed a form maybe for a grievance, teacher with a grievance or something like that, but we did not have in our policy manual a form specifically related to 1700.
Or 17.
I just think that helps process the complaints if they're all kind of like in that uniform template.
And then I assume those get filed whether they're founded or not.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Somewhere.
Whatever you did, Kelly, I'm missing my last 16 pages.
Yeah, about
Six
those.
pages. Whoops.
Small meeting for the last 16.
Yeah, I had to download mine.
Got it on my desktop. I can just-
And Felicia, you should be aware that the clerk is now involved
Well, that's what I wondered.
in,
In 1700, yes.
That's what I wondered, is that appropriate language for us to have?
Where's that, Amanda?
so number 3 and 4 talk about the clerk's role,
Oh,
in this process.
So, in the school district 2, 1700, the clerk plays a huge role in it.
I don't think she needs that.
I think
It's not a bad idea to have one point of contact for all, so everything comes through, whoever that is, comes through, they create the file, you know.
That I understand, but
Put in a calendaring sheet says these are the dates, this needs to be done by just so that it's all in one place and it's not, oh, this person is responding to this and this person has this complaint.
I agree with that, but it says you have the right to dismiss it.
Yeah,
think you want
I don't want that authority.
That part I would take
No.
out. I think you
No.
review and you calendar and make sure that
Yeah, and I just
everybody else does theirs.
Yeah.
Sure, so what Felicia could do is the board authorizes and directs the clerks to evaluate and determine within 20 business days of the receipt. I like that, right? So here it is, it was submitted, because we ran into some timing questions, because it wasn't clearly defined in our current
Right.
1700 on what action needed to be taken. So within 20 days, this is what, our clerk has to do, and you're just processing it. At this point in time. Do they have standing, which is earlier defined? Yes, that's a yes or no. The timeliness of the complaint, so it needs to happen within, what did it say, 30 days?
Does it say that, or is that just?
Written.
Yes, the written complaint must be filed within 30 calendar days from the event or incident.
And the only place that gets tricky is if they're claiming that it's an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
Then that gets a little,
Yeah, the date the complainant became aware of or could reasonably become aware of the event or incident.
and so that gets a little tricky if it's an ongoing, well, I didn't realize it was gonna be this big of a problem until now, so.
So I guess the question would be, would there be any moments in which we would want the clerk to dismiss? Would there be any of those situations arise?
The lack of standing and the time frame, but I don't think she's gonna do anything without checking with you anyway.
Or with board chair.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
legal counsel, it says this, the clerk may consult district legal counsel.
I think, like you said, this is built for a huge district and the clerk doesn't see anybody else and they kind of deal with stuff because there's a lot more. But some of that responsibility, if you get too deep, I don't think you need that. I don't think you want that. I don't know if that one could be rewritten a little bit.
I think number 3 is good, because it gives her those options that Ken mentioned.
Yeah, I think 3 is good. Maybe in the bottom of 3, that item B,
Yeah.
take that out because, or dismiss the complaint. Unless you want to give her the right to.
Let me reread 4, because 4 goes through like how you would dismiss the complaint.
I think she could dismiss it if they're not standing. That's pretty straightforward, when you look at what it is. They're a student, parent, guardian, they live in the district, or directly involved. It's just,
So if we get a complaint in from like Miami, no, we're not taking that.
somebody lives in Laurel,
But the time bound piece too,
those would be the only 2 things.
right? Or if in their complaint, they didn't list a specific policy that had been violated, right? So they didn't fill out the form correctly. act as kind of like a cleanup on the front end, right? That, okay, once they have those couple of things, everything's accurate in your form.
Now it can go to the next level.
Now, you know, she's not gonna have any right
So
to.
maybe dismiss, it's almost like, you didn't do this right, here, fix
Yeah.
it, and you can bring it back.
That's
So it's
right.
kind of like a correction area, not just, nope, we're not gonna listen.
This is more paperwork.
Yeah.
I think.
So if an anonymous one comes in,
That's out.
no standing, so it's out.
That's right.
She can deal with that.
Yep,
Maybe leave that in there then, right?
yep. And then folks still have the right to appeal, right? We would need to change that
Yeah.
and direct it to a different committee.
Do we have a board operations committee, is it called that?
No.
Those terms need to
We
be
can get rid of that last sentence there.
corrected or deleted.
Where would that go? I think we'd have to define that. So if somebody wanted to appeal the clerk's decision, the complainant may request in writing that. Do we want to put that to a board committee?
Well, the whole point
Then you're
was to
bypassing
get away from the
superintendent.
board, though.
You're bypassing the superintendent, then if the clerk dismisses and they wanna challenge it, it shouldn't go directly to the board, should it?
I think the argument's gonna be then that we're giving the clerk too much authority.
Mm-hmm.
There's no appeal process.
I would say the appeal after the clerk, but the appeal go to the superintendent before it comes to the board.
Probably.
Which, you know, when you get into number 6 and 7 and all that, it kind of tells the route that it's over. I guess the only thing that, if they want to appeal, it's like, no, it was within the 30 days. Or yes, I am a resident of the district. Those are the only things that they should be able to appeal to the clerk. They're the very few things that she has the right to dismiss.
Mm-hmm.
If she says, nope, I'm not gonna dismiss it, and they go, no, I am in the district, here is my current address.
Right.
Oh, okay, or, no, that's not in our district, that she could do.
Because she's not making a decision on the merits
No,
Right.
of it.
just
right?
on accepting the complaint.
That's right.
So I think that's still okay, because then when it gets into 5, 6, 7, then it tells everything that goes up the chain of command.
So I guess the question still is, and maybe we kind of think about it, but who do we charge with that decision?
Well,
Of
because-
no, you do have standing, you don't have standing.
Outside of the clerk.
Yeah, so school district 2 puts it to their board operations committee. They must have a, small committee. Do we want this to be policy? Do we want this to be activities? Do we need to establish a new committee?
I would say policy best fits it, right?
Because they're gonna know
And
what
we have it
policies have been
established.
broken.
they could, refer it to the, if they complain, then goes to the policy. And then the policy committee will make the decision that the clerk is right or the clerk is wrong. Or send it back for further action by the. I think we change the name of that. And it cannot go to the superintendent, the board, or the county superintendent. That's what it says that last statement. Whatever the clerk says, and whatever the policy committee, if we did it that way, that's fine. It can't go anywhere.
Where it goes to.
Like, nope, you are not accountable. I'm going to, no, you can't go anywhere. It's done. That's what they're saying, the way I read it.
So, in number 3, where it says the clerk may consult with district legal counsel on these issues, do we want to put in there that she can consult with board chair and superintendent, or no?
I don't know why you couldn't.
Do you think that, does that
Or it's
muddy,
taken to,
do you think that that muddies the water or does anything when it comes to the actual process of investigating it?
I don't know.
I think if it's the complaint against the superintendent, then that's a board chair.
Right.
If it's something other than the superintendent, then it goes to the superintendent. Kind of like, he has the purview over the school, the board has the purview over him.
And actually, the only there's only those 3 things that the clerk can judge that complaint by.
Yeah.
Do
no,
they have
that's probably
standing?
just muddy it.
Is it in time? And is the proper,
Mhm.
policy there? I don't even know with those 3 when you would ever call legal counsel.
No, because I'm not deciding on, I'm just deciding if they're standing, not the merits of the argument or the complaint.
I think you could almost take the clerk may consult with district legal counsel on the issue, take that out. And upon the completion of this review, the clerk will direct the complaint to the appropriate administrator or dismiss it.
Mhm.
Just take that one sentence out.
Gone.
What?
Gone.
Dawn, oh, I thought you said Dawn, I'm like, what?
Oh, sorry.
I think that cleans that up better. I like that better.
So then number 5, typical route, complaint will be addressed by building principal. We don't have another, we don't have, we don't have a step, so it's either A or B, the superintendent, right?
Mhm.
This doesn't put into account athletics. Complaint, would it go to the head coach, would it go to the AD, then would it go to the principal? Those steps aren't there, or is this not gonna cover that?
I like how it says typical route, and so that probably does provide, some other avenues.
Well, typically, though, it is going to go from the clerk to either Mandy or you
Yeah, or Joey.
or Joey.
Yeah.
Even if it is an athletics thing,
Because then you'll call those other ones in and start dealing with
right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because
All right,
she's the
Right.
technical administrator
Yeah.
over athletics.
And remember that like day-to-day activity stuff would be, if it was a playing time issue or something like that.
I deal with that.
It wouldn't be a policy issue.
Right.
So there probably wouldn't be standing if there was like, some sort of, targeting, harassment or something like that. And then that's gonna fall into a whole different policy too.
But isn't
So-
that chain of command listed in
Yes, in the activities
the
handbooks.
activities handbook? Okay.
So we take out B and make C B.
Yeah.
And then we're good.
Oops. A, building principal, or B, superintendent. The clerk may direct complaints to other appropriate administrators, in which cases the chain of command route may be different. So I think that's good too. I like 6, that first paragraph, too, a lot. Here's some suggested action, but you don't necessarily have to do that.
Mhm. May but not require that you
Yeah.
take any of these steps.
Yeah.
And the clerk has the right to grant more time.
Well,
on that next paragraph.
yeah, that second paragraph. So that's the part that's kind of weird to me, and I think we'll see it more throughout this document. So it's like, so the clerk has passed it on to the superintendent or the principal is, working through these steps and whatnot, but then they have to go back to the clerk, be granted additional time.
If you needed it.
She's the one keeping track of the calendar and making sure that time frame is followed accurately, I think.
So let's say, so I get it, right? Whatever, however many days passed, Felicia gets it, she needs to respond with, okay, great. As soon as I get it in my hands for an email, time starts for me. I got 30 days. Let's say I get to 20, and it's like, oh, I got a couple interviews, I need to
Family
arrange.
emergency.
Yeah, they can't do it for 2 more weeks. I have to go to Felicia.
It's just weird to me that the clerk is the one granting that.
I think it takes, that would take pressure off Clark if he had something going, like, well, yeah, superintendent just took more time because he wanted to. No, he had to get it
Yeah, no, I
approved.
Mhm.
She's the one that does all the time cards and the leave and everything else, and it's like, he had a family emergency, it was gone, and need 5 more days.
Yeah, and then the clerk is running the communication, so one of the things that's, I think, nice about, we haven't ran a lot of these, but when a Title IX investigation goes, Joey is obligated, hey, I'm your point of contact, right? Contacts all the parties involved, any communication that you might have need to run through me. Right, really, really clears that up. I think when the investigation's going, if Felicia is like that time person, I think it does prevent, because you do get the, hey, what's the status of this?
We're coming up on this deadline.
And it's coming directly to you, and you're kind of in the heat of the investigation right now. I actually kind of like that.
Well, yeah, if we can get that other position.
As we're putting more work.
As
I
we're putting more work on
We
Felicia.
met-
No, I
That's where
actually
I'm
had
kind of like,
policy moving to that person.
We met
so.
on Monday. We had job descriptions.
oh, good.
Oh, yeah. Pages and pages and pages, so.
Yeah, that's kind of where my hang up is. It's like we're just putting more.
Yeah.
Well, not really, not if we don't have any complaints. But I'm hoping for.
And that's not hard, because when it comes in, I just basically created a legal pleadings file. Has all the documentation in there, on the other side is the timeline, this response is due by here, D.
No, Felicia's gonna be great at
And it
this.
just sets it up just like, and then everything is in one file, the complaint, the response, any communication is in there. So it makes it easy for anybody to then, if Clark is gone, or, if an investigator needs to look at it, here's the file,
And you have the whole timeline.
And it's in one place.
one place.
Like number 7, just the next step is kind of the same as the one with the building administrator. So I suppose it says a written request, so you would have to have something in writing in the file that requests Clark to look at this.
Yeah.
Which I think is just
easy enough to
documentation.
do. Yeah, if I'm letting the complainant know, yes, this can move forward, I am forwarding it to blah, 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 I include that with the, copy of the complaint to whoever I'm sending it to.
Right.
So that everything's documented.
I think that's good.
Okay, so just trying to fully understand this. Let me run it through, see what you guys are thinking. So complaint made, violation of district policy. It goes to, the appropriate building level administrator. The complainant appeals it. It goes to the superintendent.
The complainant doesn't like your decision.
Then it goes,
If the board has purview over that.
response. Okay, so the
Per Montana law.
superintendent's response to the complaint is final, unless Montana law gives the board jurisdiction. Or no, and B, okay, and the decision is appealed, okay. And is it stating that the only thing that you guys have jurisdiction over are, what did it say? Calendar? So if they're seeking a change to district policy,
So the board will not consider employee or student discipline issues,
right?
employment issues. I don't know.
Or if the complaint is seeking tort liability. Kelly, what's tort liability again?
You don't wanna know.
I used to know that.
What is this again, Felicia?
So, tort case is basically, I was damaged in some way, therefore I want remuneration.
Civil wrong that causes a claim
You want
for
money.
loss or harm.
Which is more like the civil rights style of, so if we did something in law enforcement, broke a door down or whatever, they could file a tort claim that we broke their door down and we have to pay for those damages.
Okay, so it's not criminal law, you didn't break the law.
It's not criminal, no.
Yeah, so they talk about tort reform a lot because these awards are getting out of control that these juries are putting in. So they've been talking about, how do we go about this and still make sure it's fair and accurate. So it's basically the remuneration part of, I was wronged, this is the remuneration that I want out of this because you did something wrong.
And a lot of times for us, it's like, well, they didn't just break your door down, what was the circumstances? Oh, what would you expect a reasonable person to do? It's dismissed.
It's kind of
Yeah, it's not small claims, it's not criminal, it's kind of a in-between zone.
Yeah, so it's like if somebody murders somebody and they don't get convicted criminally, they can sue them civilly, and that's kind of a tort case there. Different laws.
How does everybody feel about 7?
I thought it was okay.
Okay.
Is there anything in there that talks about, like, because 1,700 is more for the public, not for employees, correct? Do we need to put that in there?
I think that's kind of addressed in that table. Where,
Yeah, I'm very top of it.
where if this is a complaint
Very
about, these different areas, then you need to follow that policy, not this one.
Unless it's covered under a CBA.
Well, because in
Yeah, and then the CBA stuff all kind of
an
falls.
understanding, it does not say employee. It's just student, parent, live in the district.
Mm-hmm.
Or directly affected by and has personal knowledge and direct knowledge of the matters. That's big. Doesn't say employees.
Well, but like, the paras aren't covered by a CBA, so then they would go to this.
They wouldn't,
They would, because they're not covered by the CBA.
but they're not, it doesn't say employee of the district.
Or it might,
That's not standing. They're
yeah,
not in good standing because they're not, they came as a parent or a district. I think it depends on what they complain, because they could say, yes, I work here, but I live in the district and I'm coming as a district.
yeah, it depends
resident.
on the subject matter of the
Depends on the
complaint.
complaint.
Yeah, which this is really handy where it talks about district employee matters, where those are all outlined in that 5,000 series.
So the last paragraph of number 7 talks about the board's operation committee again.
Yeah, so are we okay just to move all of those to policy?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll make those changes before any first reading, that's the right one to go.
I don't know that, so we're in 8, under A, I don't know that number 2 applies anymore because by state law now we're required.
Well, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, parents no longer pay tuition, so, and districts are
And we
required
don't
to
charge
pay.
it, yeah, that doesn't apply to us anyway, because we don't, we never did.
But we still do, review non-resident enrollment.
Mm-hmm. But only that they want to enroll without the payment of tuition.
Which they can't do anymore.
Yeah. So I think that would 1,700 be the appropriate avenue for a parent wishing to appeal an out-of-district denial?
We had that a couple years ago.
I think it's pretty cut and dried. It's like, here's our guidelines
Yeah, we're,
with our class sizes. Where is that? Is that in a policy?
Right.
That's the policy.
So it's like,
Following
yeah,
the
like-
policy, the answer is this,
Mhm.
because it's in this policy.
Policy hasn't been violated, yeah.
But they could still file this complaint,
They could.
and that could be our response. Like, I think we still need to give
Yeah,
people the
they can,
avenue.
yeah, that's right, but it's,
Yeah.
no, we didn't break policy. We're following policy, it's done.
and that's that initial review of does this complaint have standing?
Mhm.
And the board is pretty limited, basically. Change policy or change the school calendar. That's really all it talks about.
That's kind of why I get confused with all these, some emails.
Well, this is a new policy though,
Sure.
to try to alleviate that.
Well, and just to
But-
communicate
I
that,
mean,
But,
but
like, I
under,
think what
under
you're
state
saying,
law.
By law, we are limited on what we
Yeah.
can do, so
Right.
why is all this stuff coming at us?
and all complaints now, if we adopt this one, they have to come through me. It can't be, oh, I'm gonna email the whole board. That's not how the process works. Once, if this is implemented, I think that will also help people understand the process and that there is a step-by-step to go through this.
But I think you're kind of saying there already is one.
Yeah,
Well, under the state law, like Amanda was saying, yeah, anyway, that's a learning curve, I think.
Policy.
For all of us.
well, and I think, you know, and I don't have our current policy pulled up. But I think if that happens, if you get an email, the board chair just emails that person, says you need to, here's the policy, this is the procedure, if you wanna file a complaint. And then,
I do like how this does spell it out. I haven't read 1,700 for a while, but
It's very.
it's easy to understand and follow
Yeah, our current one is not.
the MTSB model.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not. And, I mean, you know, we reviewed it before and approved it, but I think then when something comes up, like it has, it makes you look at things a little bit differently and saying like, hey, there could be a better way here, this is really confusing actually.
Mhm.
And then going, you know, to that legal thing that we went to and seeing this one, it's like, well, yeah, there is a better way.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, thanks.
So under that board review, that number 2 under board review, couldn't we leave that in there if the complainant seeks to enroll a non-resident student and then get rid of the rest of it?
Yep.
But if I would read further, C answers my questions that I just made,
What C?
and I think that's what,
Complaints against superintendent or clerk.
Process it according to B6. Okay.
So that's if they include somebody other than just you or I.
Oh, is that what it's saying?
So, district policy by superintendent, clerk, and another district employee.
Oh.
That's when that B6 comes into play.
Okay. Okay. The board will respond to the complaint. In doing so, the board may refer the matter to a panel.
Title IX, only 1972. It's been a long time.
So what does, so a complaint comes in, so is there an obligation at that point in time, if there's a complaint made against the superintendent or the clerk, the board is obligated to appoint a panel?
It says they may.
Mhm.
I think the board may refer it to a panel, or assume the board chair can just say no and bring it up in full meeting. The way it looks. Because it still has to go to the board from the committee if the committee reads it.
So like it says, the board will respond to the complainant. The board will respond in writing to the complainant. Is it just assumed that's the board chair?
I would think so.
Does it have to state the board chair? Should it state the board chair
It doesn't. Maybe it
for
should.
clarity?
You know,
I mean,
the
otherwise
board
it's like
chair is
it's
a-
all of us
the board chair is the head of the board.
Yeah.
She speaks for the board.
And could just in the response reference, the policy committee has met, reviews your complaint, blah, 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 upon their recommendation, the board will, blah, blah, blah.
When it says the board will respond in writing, we all can't do that. But we do it as a unified.
Yeah, I think if it's the board, that's a full meeting, and then Dawn does the lift on it. I do like that it gives you that option of the panel. It's not tying you guys into a full board meeting.
Which a lot of,
But I guess you do make a recommendation to the board, right? Yeah.
yeah, the committee makes the recommendation to the board. It's hard to get all 8 of us together.
And if you have, that committee meet of 3, that's not a quorum, it doesn't have to be an open meeting, does it? Doesn't have to be recorded or anything, that's a panel.
It's the same as the committee.
Same as this.
Yeah.
So it's open, if you have a complaint,
Yep.
and 3 come, it's open to the public.
If any board members on it. It's open.
Even if there's one person on it.
Be kind of
Now,
tough
if it's
a
employee
complaint,
performance, it can be closed
so it could be
due
closed.
to privacy laws, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
but I
this
think,
is-
but
But this
remember,
is policy, this
Yeah.
doesn't affect, I don't like the way they're doing their job, they have to have violated district policy in order
So
for this
it's pretty
complaint to
much-
go forward.
Book policy, yes or no, we're
Yes.
gonna review it.
Yeah,
They get into other stuff, it's like that doesn't,
it
Not
doesn't fall
germane
under
to
this,
yeah.
because the board doesn't have really jurisdiction over, the board has jurisdiction, again, above, over policy, over admitting non-district students, and the calendar, that's what their jurisdiction is.
got it.
This one actually seems pretty similar to what we have, to some
The
extent,
very
right?
end,
Yeah, except it is specific that it's complaint against the superintendent or clerk.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think our policy does have this section, because it is a different submission process.
And I don't know what issues would go to the county superintendent. When a matter falls within the jurisdiction of the county superintendent of schools, a decision of the board may be appealed.
I
From
think,
what I understand, when I've talked to other county superintendents, it never happened.
Yeah, I don't know what that would be.
Some of them like Missoula, if she's big and she's been in it forever, it never happened. There's just like, it doesn't happen.
Yeah,
It's just not.
be interesting to, find out what those are.
It's under Montana law, so it's gotta be, I don't know. It's very, very rarely done, from what I understand, throughout the state.
I think it all looks fine.
Yep.
So where does and I'm sorry, I don't have the correct reference with me. Is 4311 just for district employees, not superintendent?
So 4311 is up for first reading tonight, and 4311,
It's just district employees,
complaints against district employees,
except for the superintendent.
the superintendent or the clerk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just references it down here and I thought, ooh,
Yeah, complaints against superintendent or clerk shall be made in writing to the board using 1700.
which which is interesting because it's not listed in the little graph up here, where it says area of concern, it says district employee matters policy appears 5,000 instead of listing 4311.
Yeah, I think that might be something to add up there,
Just so that it gets right up top, they don't, you know, it doesn't get lost in a reference on the very last page.
Yeah.
We're recessing in the,
At 4, we probably should have that, or maybe now, I guess.
We're kind of done there, right?
I think that's pretty good, yeah.
I like it.
Okay, I'll make,
All right.
I've made most of those changes, but I didn't get all the board operations committee, so I'll make those changes and get that out for everybody to review.
All right, so we'll recess for an hour.
That
Yeah.
sounds great.
For an hour,
We'll come back, so we can
Well,
do that.
yeah, so,
budget's from 4 to 6, 4,
4 to 5 or 5.
so what's at 5?
us again,
We were supposed to be,
we were supposed to
We're
be
reconvening.
by the,
Did you recess us?
yeah.
How come I didn't see that on the agenda?